Do you believe that half-human, half-beast creatures still walk among us? In today's video, we venture into the darkness, where werewolf stories are no longer just legend. From blood-soaked crimes, strange footprints in the snow, to ancient oaths awakened under the full moon, truth or delusion. You'll have to decide for yourself. Don't forget to subscribe for more chilling, mysterious tales, some real, some never told before. A small German village is haunted by a series of gruesome murders. Villagers blame a centuries-old werewolf curse. A young detective faces fear and a terrifying truth in the woods. Is there truly a beast, or is deadly superstition at play? Will you dare to enter the Black Forest with us? The Curse Beneath the Black Forest. This story is inspired by European werewolf legends, especially German folktales from the 18th to 19th centuries, when people in regions like the Black Forest believed that brutal attacks were caused by werewolves. Historically, cases such as the Beast of Gavaudan in France sparked fear about werewolves, often associated with superstition or mass hysteria. This story is set in the Black Forest, Germany, in 1952, a post-war period when poverty and superstition still lingered in remote villages. Characters like Hans Müller and Greta Keller reflect the realistic roles of hunters and investigators of that era. The horror element centers on the blurred line between man and beast, community suspicion and violence, unresolved mystery, and the haunting presence of the forest. Black Forest, Germany, March 12, 1952. The scent of pine needles and damp earth enveloped the small village of Waldkirch. A woodcutter, Carl Fischer, was found dead in the forest, his body torn apart, bones exposed beneath ripped flesh. Deep claw marks were imprinted in the soil, unlike those of any known local animal. Greta Keller, a 32-year-old detective with short hair and piercing eyes, arrived at the scene. Villagers whispered of the werewolf, a legend thought to be long forgotten. Greta, skeptical of superstition, examined the body. The scratches were too large for a wolf, too savage for a human. But when she looked up, she felt the forest staring back, silent and cold. Hans Müller, 40, was a hunter living at the village's edge. Tall, bearded, with a long scar on his arm, Hans was the only survivor of a similar attack a month ago. He told Greta that a beast had leapt from the bushes, but he had shot it and fled. The villagers began to suspect Hans, whispering that he survived because he was the werewolf. Greta visited Hans's cabin, thick with the smell of animal hides and gunpowder. In a deep voice, Hans said, "I hunt animals, not people." But his eyes darted away when Greta asked about the scar. She left with a sense of unease. That night, she dreamed of a beast with human eyes standing silently outside her window. April 1952. Two more attacks occurred. A girl, Anna Braun, 19, was torn apart near the village stream. A shepherd, Fritz, was found with his throat ripped open. The villagers panicked, barricading doors, lighting fires through the night. Some prayed, others carried axes and guns, ready to hunt the monster. As Greta walked through the village square, she felt eyes filled with fear and rage. An old man, voice trembling, spoke of a centuries-old curse. A family from the village had sold their souls to the devil in exchange for power. Greta dismissed it, but when she examined Anna's body, she saw claw marks identical to Carl's. Doubt crept in, like the forest whispering a truth she didn't want to face. Greta found an old journal in the village church, written by a priest in 1802. The journal told of a hunter, an ancestor of the Mueller family, cursed by a witch after killing her son. He shall take the form of a beast on full moon nights. It read. Though skeptical, Greta began watching Hans more closely. One night, she saw Hans leave his cabin, heading into the forest with a rifle. Greta followed, heart pounding. She found a stone circle in the woods, marked with claw prints and dried blood. Hans stood there, murmuring to himself. When Greta stepped closer, he turned around, eyes wild, making her recoil in shock. Greta confronted Hans in his cabin. "What do you know about the curse?" she asked, gripping her pistol. Hans gave a dry laugh, saying his family had always been suspected, but he swore innocence. He pointed to the scar on his arm, claiming it was from a hunting accident, not a beast. But when Greta searched Hans's storage, she found a wolf pelt stained with fresh blood. Hans said it was from an animal he shot the week before, but Greta didn't believe him. She left, mind spinning. That night, she heard distant howling in the forest, uncertain if it was a wolf or something else. Fear gnawed at her like a cold blade. May 1952. Another attack. A boy, Wilhelm, was dragged from the stables, his body mangled. Villagers gathered, demanding Hans be hanged. Greta stood among the angry mob, trying to protect him, but unsure if she was defending a man or a monster. She led Hans into the forest, forcing him to confess. Trembling, Hans admitted that his grandfather once spoke of a curse, but he didn't believe it until he saw his own body change during a full moon. "I tried to escape it," he said, eyes red. Greta, shocked, didn't know whether to believe or draw her gun. The villagers, unwilling to wait, dragged Hans from his cabin and burned him at the stake. Greta, powerless, watched the flames consume him. No further attacks occurred after that, but the forest remained eerily silent. Greta left Waldkirch, carrying the old journal. She wrote, "I saw a man die, but did the beast die with him?" The Black Forest kept its secrets. Villagers claimed that on quiet nights, they still heard distant howling, as if the curse had not ended. Some swore they saw claw marks on trees, but no one dared venture into the woods. The incident became legend, a reminder that darkness can dwell in anyone, and the Black Forest never forgets. Was Hans Mueller truly a werewolf, or just a victim of village suspicion and superstition? Was the curse in the journal real, or merely a way to explain mysterious deaths? Why did the attack stop after Hans's death, and did the curse truly end? Are the howls and claw marks in the forest imagined, or signs that a beast still lingers? If the curse was real, did Greta unknowingly carry it with her when she left Waldkirch? A torn carcass lies on the snow in the Rockies. Locals whisper, the Wendigo has returned. A young Cree nurse uncovers truth amidst blood, fear, and broken vows. An ancient oath has been betrayed, and the forest demands a price. Will you dare face the monster that hides within? The Oath Under the Blood Sky. This story is inspired by the legend of the Wendigo and werewolves in the folklore of North American indigenous peoples, particularly the Cree and Algonquin nations. Wendigo is often described as a human-beast hybrid born from hunger, greed, or spiritual corruption. Historically, reports of Wendigo sightings and Wendigo psychosis were documented in medical and anthropological records in Canada during the 19th and 20th centuries. The story is set in a Cree village near the Rocky Mountains in Alberta, Canada, in the year 1960, a time when ancient traditions began to collide with the modern world. It explores themes of cultural memory, collective fear, and the price of broken spiritual bonds. January 1960. A winter storm had buried the forested edges of Wapen, a remote Cree village nestled in an Alberta valley. A man, Samuel Rainwalker, 47, was found dead in the woods. His body was ripped apart, eyes frozen wide in terror. Massive claw marks trailed across the snow, leading into the dense forest. His hunting dog was never found. Aiyana Redfeather, 29, a trained nurse who had returned home from Calgary to care for her ailing father, was among the first at the scene. She noticed something chilling. No signs of struggle, no human footprints. Leading away, only the twisted, unnatural claw prints. Whispers spread among the villagers. Wendigo, the flesh-eating spirit of the forest, had awakened once more. A week later, a large gray wolf was discovered dead near the forest's edge. Its throat and belly had been torn open. Old Joseph, the eldest hunter, declared, "No animal kills a wolf like that. It's Wendigo." Aiyana requested a field autopsy. What she found chilled her. The bite marks were human-shaped, but with a jaw far too large to belong to any man. Inside the wolf's stomach were strands of human hair and a scrap of blue cloth, the same color as Samuel's jacket that night. While standing near the tree line, Aiyana heard a distant howl, not of a wolf, but something deeper, rougher, something that almost sounded like it was calling a name. Aiyana's father, Elias Redfeather, whispered from his sickbed, "The Wendigo rises because we broke the oath." When she pressed him, he gave her an old deer hide pouch containing a carved bone talisman and a handwritten note. "No blood shall spill after the sacred vow." She sought out Tomas Lightning, the last remaining ritual keeper of the old ways, now living in isolation outside the village. Tomas told her that generations ago, the villagers made a spiritual pact with the forest to keep balance. But when settlers came and railroads cut through the land, the sacred vow was forgotten. And the Wendigo is what follows betrayal. By February, 2 more were dead. A missing 11-year-old boy and a man found decapitated by the river. Same patterns, no signs of struggle, no exit prints in the snow, and the strange melting patterns around the bodies. Panic spread. Families built fences, lit fires. Some fled the village. A group of young men armed themselves, suspecting that Wendigo walks among them in human form. Fear turned inward. Aiyana searched old clinic records. She found a 1938 note by a former village doctor. Symptoms of mass hysteria. One man believed his father turned into a wolf and killed him with his own hands. Aiyana was haunted by a terrible theory. Wendigo isn't just a monster. It's a spirit waiting for a host. She called in a friend from the city, Daniel Shore, an anthropologist. He uncovered records showing that Aiyana's family, the Red Feathers, descended from the Oath Keepers, guardians of the boundary between humans and Wendigo. Her father Elias had been the last to perform the sacred ritual. Now, something or someone was searching for a new host. Late February, the northern lights turned blood red unnaturally. The village stayed awake all night. From the forest came a low, collective wailing, like hundreds of voices merging. By morning, Daniel was gone. Aiyana followed his trail to a frozen lake, once the site of the sacred oath ceremony. She found his coat soaked in blood. On the ice was a symbol, a Wendigo sigil, scratched by claws. Then the snow began to steam. From the fog, a tall figure emerged, eyes glowing like coals. In that final moment, Aiyana pulled out the bone talisman her father gave her. She drove it into the ice and recited the old vow from memory. Her own blood dripped onto the sigil. The beast hesitated. It screamed, a sound that made the sky ripple. Then the blood-red aurora faded to a dull blue. Silence returned. She collapsed. The next morning, villagers found her unconscious near the cracked lake. There was no sign of the Wendigo, but the ice had split in a spiral shape, as if something had sealed itself away. Daniel was never found again. But from that day on, the forest was quiet. One, was the Wendigo real, or a projection of communal guilt and ancestral fear? 2. Did the village itself summon the monster through the breaking of its oath? 3. Did Daniel become the new host, or sacrifice himself to close the gate? 4. Was the vow truly effective, or merely delayed the inevitable? 5. Is the Wendigo now gone, or sleeping, waiting for the next soul to forget? A mutilated body lies in the snowy woods of Dunbridge. Footprints blur the line between man and beast. Inspector Fiona investigates, only to become the suspect. An ancient curse stirs beneath the ashen moon, and the hunted may be the hunter. Howl Beneath the Ashen Moon. This story draws from ancient British and Scottish werewolf legends, particularly the myth of the Ashen Moon, a rare lunar phase when the moon appears neither fully bright nor completely obscured. In local folklore, such a moon was believed to awaken restless spirits and unbroken curses. Set in the rural town of Dunbridge, northern England, in the year 1983, this story explores a series of mysterious deaths, whispers of shapeshifters, and the haunting possibility that evil may not come from the forest, but from within. Inspector Fiona Harker, recently transferred from London to Dunbridge, sought a quieter life to escape personal trauma. But less than a week into her new post, she faced a horrific crime. The mutilated body of a young woman was discovered in the pine forest. The coroner found signs too strange to explain, bite marks far too large for a wolf, claw wounds too deep for a bear. The snow bore footprints resembling both human and beast. Locals whispered of an old superstition, the gray moon curse, which only manifests under an ashen moon, when the light is too faint to illuminate but too strong to vanish. That night, Fiona saw it for herself, a pale, ashen moon hanging low, casting an eerie, dusty glow over the forest where the body lay. Fiona visited Owen Marsh, a reclusive man living deep in the woods. Locals claimed he was once a soldier, now half-mad and completely feral. He greeted her with hollow eyes and a gravel voice. "Did you hear it last night?" he asked. "The wolves." No, the howl of something no longer human. Inside his hut, Fiona glimpsed a notebook with sketches of a half-man, half-beast, standing beneath an ashen moon, mouth wide open, as if summoning something from below. She, left with chills crawling down her spine. The second body was found, a man, headless, limbs twisted unnaturally. Fiona hadn't slept in days. At night, she heard scratching on her rooftop, though no one else did. She saw shadows darting through trees, but each time she chased them, only melted snow and warm breath in the air remained. She turned to Reverend Maddox, the village priest who kept 17th century religious scrolls. One testimony from a woman burned as a werewolf read, "He comes when the moon cannot reflect, but is just bright enough to see your own darkness." Fiona began to wonder, was the killer something ancient or something inside her? Fiona dreamed of her own face transforming, fur, fangs, blood. She awoke with dirt under her nails and forest debris in her sheets that a psychological evaluation revealed nothing abnormal. But her therapist was the next victim, found torn apart, with a note scrawled in his own blood. Fiona? Or something else? Suspicions turned toward her. She locked herself in one night, handcuffed, windows barred. But come morning, the cuffs were shattered, the glass broken, and her shirt soaked in blood. She had no memory of the night. Fiona traced her family tree and discovered a buried case from 1921. Her grandmother, Margaret Harker, was arrested for murder. The case was dropped due to lack of evidence. But the crime scene resembled the current killings, ripped bodies, strange symbols, and a gray moon. She realized she wasn't just an investigator. She was part of the curse, a descendant of those who carried the gray blood, tied to an ancient being that walks the line between man and beast. She wasn't chasing the monster. She was the door it needed to cross over. Fiona returned to Owen. He confessed. He once bore the curse, but fled into the forest to resist it. "You think you're hunting," he said, "but you are the beacon." They went to Trodden Lake, where werewolves were once executed centuries ago. Under the ashen moon, Fiona felt her body twist, skin shivering, teeth aching, ears ringing with distant howls. Desperate, she handed Owen a gun and said, "If I change, end it." That night, two monstrous figures clashed under the moonlight. By dawn, only Owen lay unconscious, and Fiona was gone to no remains. No footprints, just the silence of the woods. The killing stopped. The ashen moon no longer rose. Dunbridge returned to its sleepy rhythm. Owen never spoke again. A deep claw mark ran down his arm. No one knew what happened that night. Fiona was officially declared missing. But some say that, on certain misty nights, under dim silver light, a tall figure in a long coat can be seen standing in the woods, watching the town, and disappearing just before dawn. One, was the werewolf real, or a psychological projection of Fiona's inherited trauma? 2. Does the ashen moon truly possess power, or simply signal the return of inner demons? 3. Was Owen a mentor, a cursed soul, or the final key to transferring the beast? 4. Is Dunbridge healed, or has it merely buried its darkness again? 5. Is Fiona dead, a guardian in the woods, or now the very thing she once feared? A man vanishes in thick fog deep in the Louisiana bayou. Locals whisper of the Rougarou, the Cajun werewolf legend. A young nurse ventures into murky waters in search of truth. Is it a real monster, or a curse born from fear and folklore? Will you dare enter the swamp that whispers secrets? Claw marks in the fog. This story is inspired by the Cajun legend of the Rougarou in Louisiana, a werewolf-like creature in folklore often used as a warning against wrongdoing. Historically, Rougarou tales were widespread in the bayou swamps from the 19th century, reflecting superstition and fear of the unknown in harsh environments. The story is set in the Louisiana Bayou in 1965, a time when the Cajun community still held on to deep traditions and beliefs. The blurred line between man and monster, the murky atmosphere of the swamp, unsolved mysteries, and lingering dread define this tale. Bayou, Louisiana, July 10, 1965. Thick fog blanketed the swamp, the air heavy with the scent of mud and rotting grass. A fisherman, Etienne Leroux, 42, disappeared after rowing into the deep areas. His boat was later found capsized, with deep claw marks on the wood, as if some beast had attacked. Marie Boudreau, a 28-year-old nurse with neatly tied black hair, was summoned as panic spread. Sheriff Claude LeBlanc, a superstitious Cajun man with a weathered face, declared it the work of the Rougarou, the werewolf of legend. Marie, skeptical of such tales, inspected the boat. The claw marks were too large, unlike any known animal. She felt the swamp holding a secret, waiting to be uncovered. Etienne wasn't the only one to vanish. Over the next 2 months, 3 more went missing: a hunter, a reed collector, and a teenage boy. All disappeared during thick, foggy nights. Villagers whispered about Jean Lafitte, a reclusive man living in an old shack at the swamp's edge. Jean, 35, gaunt with deep-set eyes, was rumored to be the cursed one due to his family's mysterious past. Marie visited Jean under the guise of delivering a medical kit. His shack reeked of animal hides and kerosene. "I didn't harm anyone," he said. "The swamp is what's dangerous." But when Marie asked about the foggy nights, he turned away, gripping a hunting knife. She left, heart pounding, feeling as though she had brushed against something dark. Panic spread. The villagers held prayer rituals and lit candles to ward off the Rougarou. Elderly women claimed the beast appeared when sacred oaths were broken or the land was disrespected. At the local bar, Claude declared he would hunt the creature. But Marie noticed the villagers feared not just the Rougarou, but Jean Lafitte, the cursed man. As Marie walked through the swamp, the air felt heavy, as if the water and fog concealed a deeper truth. Near where Etienne vanished, she found a torn piece of cloth smeared with mud and dried blood. That night, she dreamed of a clawed figure standing in the mist, staring directly at her. Marie and Claude searched Jean's shack while he was away. Inside, they found a pile of animal bones, some still fresh, arranged in a strange circular pattern. A torn piece of paper written in Cajun French mentioned blood owed to the land. Though skeptical, Marie felt a chill crawl down her spine. Claude muttered, "He's the Rougarou. I know it." That night, Marie heard howling from afar, not like a wolf, but something in pain and despair. She decided to follow Jean, spotting him rowing into the swamp with a heavy sack. When she called out his name, he turned with wild eyes, as if caught red-handed. Marie confronted Jean on a muddy clearing in the swamp. "What do you do at night?" she asked, gripping a wooden staff. Trembling, Jean said his family once performed a ritual to protect the swamp, but something went wrong. Someone in his bloodline transformed into something else. He swore he hadn't killed anyone, but admitted he couldn't control himself during foggy nights. Marie didn't believe him, but when she checked Jean's sack, she found a hunting knife stained with blood. Jean shouted, "It's not human blood." Before she could react, Claude appeared, pointing a gun at Jean. The fog thickened, and a roar echoed in the distance, freezing them all in place. Another disappearance. A girl named Elise vanished near Jean's shack. The villagers gathered, demanding Jean's execution. Marie stood amidst the angry crowd, trying to protect him, but Claude took Jean into custody. In jail, Jean told Marie about an ancient ritual performed by his ancestors that bound their blood to the swamp. "I tried to run," he said, eyes red, "but it always finds me." Marie returned to the swamp, and discovered a patch of earth with deep claw marks, as if something had dug there. She unearthed a wooden box containing human bones and a handwritten curse. When she looked up, fog surrounded her, and she felt a cold breath on the back of her neck. The villagers dragged Jean from his cell, took him into the swamp, and shot him. Marie, powerless, watched his body sink beneath the murky water. No further disappearances occurred, but the swamp remained eerily silent. Marie left the bayou, carrying the ritual paper. She wrote, "I killed a man, but did the beast die?" The Cajun community lived on, but the swamp held a darkness. Some claimed that on foggy nights, they heard howls or saw figures gliding over the water. A few swore they found claw marks on their boats, but no one dared row too deep. The Rougarou legend lived on, a reminder that the swamp keeps secrets never meant to be revealed. Was Jean Lafitte truly cursed by the Rougarou, or merely a victim of superstition and fear? Was the ancient ritual found in the swamp real, or a fabricated tale hiding darker crimes? After Jean's death, the swamp grew quiet, but can anyone be sure the beast is gone? Are the strange sounds and fleeting shapes in the mist mere echoes of fear, or signs of something far more horrifying? When Marie left the bayou, did she carry only memories, or a part of the curse left unresolved? A priest is torn apart inside a locked chapel. A Paris inspector uncovers ancient claw marks. A buried file from 1742 resurfaces. A bloodline cursed by the werewolf still survives. Will you dare uncover the oath buried for 3 centuries? The Werewolf of Montreux. This story is inspired by real historical werewolf trials in France, such as the cases of Gilles Garnier, 1573, and Jean Grenier, 1603. The setting is Montreux, a small town in southern France near the Pyrenees, where legends of loup-garou, werewolf, have circulated since the 17th century. These tales often involve mysterious murders, forbidden bloodlines, and secret trials conducted by the church to silence what they called unholy transformations. October 1896, Montreux at dawn, the bells of Saint Benoit Church remained silent. A young altar boy entered the vestry and was struck by the overwhelming stench of blood. Father Augustine lay dead on the chapel floor, chest torn open, blood soaked into the oak planks. The altar linens were shredded, yet the door was locked from the inside. Above the body, a claw-shaped spiral mark had been carved deep into the ceiling beam, far too high for any man to reach unaided. Inspector Gabriel Mercier, 39, from Paris, was sent to investigate. He didn't believe in monsters until the mayor told him. That church was sealed in 1742 after a trial that doesn't exist in any surviving records. Two days later, a teenage shepherd girl, named Mathilde disappeared in the nearby Bois d'Ambres forest. At sunrise, her body was found disemboweled, ribs snapped, throat ripped that a local whispered. Every full moon, one death. Gabriel combed through the town archives and uncovered a sealed file from 1742. Its only note, in red ink: Maison Ferrat, do not open without ecclesiastical decree. Gabriel visited the old Ferrat estate, now crumbling near the cemetery. The last living member was Eloise Ferrat, a widowed woman with somber eyes and gloved hands, she told him. My ancestors were hunted like beasts, burned alive, accused of carrying unnatural blood. Inside her home hung an old oil painting, a man, beast-like, standing beneath a split full moon, blood dripping from his mouth. Eloise murmured, "You're not investigating a murder, Inspector. You're waking a curse the church tried to bury." Following clues in the sealed record, Gabriel discovered a hidden crypt beneath the ruined section of Saint Benoit Church. Inside, a skeleton chained in silver, parchments written in archaic Latin, a wolf-like sigil carved into stone, and an inscription: Ferrat's blood holds the key. The oath breaker shall rise. Gabriel's pulse froze. His mother's maiden name was Ferrat. He was one of only 2 living descendants, alongside Eloise. That night, Gabriel dreamt of transforming. For sprouting from his skin, jaws snapping, his body hurtling through the forest, he awoke covered in mud and blood. Beneath his bed lay pine needles and claw marks that a child had been murdered nearby. That night, the victim's wounds matched Gabriel's dream. Desperate, he returned to Eloise. She gave him a silver brooch, the family's talisman, used in ancient rites to lock the blood. You have 2 choices: run or accept. But if you do nothing, you won't be human next moon. Under the blood moon, Gabriel and Eloise performed the Ferrat ritual in the crypt. The silver talisman pierced a branded mark on Gabriel's chest, where the ancestral vow was believed to be sealed. Suddenly, a howl echoed. The door shook. A creature burst in, covered in black fur, eyes glowing red, with Gabriel's own face twisted in monstrous form. That it was Armand Ferrat, Gabriel's distant cousin, believed to have died in war. In truth, he had been imprisoned by the church in this very crypt until Gabriel unknowingly set him free. That a brutal battle ensued between the Oath Keeper and the Oath Breaker. By dawn, the forest of Bois d'Ambres was scorched. No more killings ever occurred. Gabriel vanished. Eloise was never seen again. Yet villagers spoke of a cloaked figure placing flowers at Father Augustine's grave each month under the waning moon, sometimes leaving drops of blood behind. At Aiyana, Paris, a letter arrived at the Ministry of the Interior and signed. It read, "The oath is sealed again, until another Ferrat breaks it." 1. Was the werewolf a real monster, or a generational curse rooted in blood and silence? 2. Did Gabriel become a martyr, or the next keeper of the beast? 3. How many similar werewolf cases have the church erased from history? 4. If the oath was reburied, who holds the key now? 5. Can belief alone awaken ancient evil, or was the monster always within? A young woman returns to Altai, carrying her shamanic lineage. Bloody murders erupt in the sacred snowy forest. Past life dreams unveil a horrifying truth. An ancient wolf spirit seeks a vessel to return. Will she protect the forest or become the awakened beast? The wolf spirit within the shaman. This story is inspired by traditional Mongolic folklore, where the wolf is considered a sacred ancestor and guardian spirit. In regions like Altai and Siberia, ancient shamans, notably among the Buryat and Tuva peoples, performed rituals invoking the wolf god, Bumurgan, to protect the land. Some beliefs hold that a chosen bloodline may carry the reincarnated spirit of a past shaman, often through dreams, visions, and uncontrollable transformations. This fictional tale reimagines that myth in a modern 2021 setting. Niamat Seirin, a cultural anthropologist, returns to the Altai Mountains to complete her doctoral thesis on ancient shamanic rituals. Born in Beijing but of Mongolian descent, she visits the remote village of Tafshin, nestled beneath the sacred Altarin Peak. On her first night, she hears a deep, sorrowful howl echo from the mountain, a sound no one else in the village dares to speak of. The next morning, a man is found ripped apart in the forest, scattered around the corpse, but no paw prints. Instead, they find a trail of human footprints, crawling on all fours. Niama begins to have recurring dreams. In them, she is running on all fours through the snow, a burning forest behind her, blood on her tongue. Not animal blood, but human. She consults Batar, the village's last living shaman. He looks deep into her eyes and mutters. The old spirit seeks its way back. You are the door. He gives her a wolf fang talisman, known as this soul shield. Wear it while you sleep. It may reveal who you once were. Through the dreams, Niama sees herself not as herself, but as a male shaman, standing in a sacred circle, surrounded by warriors. In front of him is a giant white wolf. The shaman chants an oath. O wolf god, I vow to guard this forest, this land, this bloodline. Should I betray this vow, let my soul be your prey. But in later dreams, she sees the shaman break his vow, murdering a man during the night. The white wolf appears and tears him apart as punishment. His soul never moves. On, it lingers, seeking a blood-bound vessel to return through. The killings continue. 3 more victims. Each one had opposed Niama's research into forbidden rituals. Around the bodies, blood in circular patterns, the ancient spirit summoning symbol. A wildlife camera captures a blurred figure. In the woods, crawling like a beast, eyes glowing, standing upright, and staring into the lens. Niama can no longer sleep. Her hands sometimes stiffen like claws, and under the moonlight, her pupils flash gold. She analyzes her own DNA just to rule out hallucination and finds a rare genetic mutation found in ancient Altai tribes. A gene adapted to extreme cold and biological shifts aligned with lunar cycles. Shaman Batar confirms, the old soul is trying to merge, not to harm, but to fulfill a broken vow. If you don't choose, it will choose for you. On the full moon, Aiyana climbs Altarin Peak, carrying the soul shield in her own blood. She reenacts the ancient ritual, invoking the wolf god, begging forgiveness, offering to guard the forest without killing. But the wolf spirit does not respond. Instead, a humanoid wolf form emerges from the shadows. Not her, but the part of her soul that had been split. The ancient shaman, now given physical form. They battle, not with claws, but with will and soul. At dawn, villagers find Aiyana unconscious in the sacred stone circle, blood dried on her brow, clutching the wolf fang in her hand. From that day, no more deaths occur. The forest becomes eerily silent, but elders say that on full moon nights, a woman in a white cloak walks the woods, eyes glowing gold, never attacking, only sitting beside the old shaman's grave, howling toward the sky. One, did Aiyana defeat the spirit or become its new vessel? 2. Is the werewolf a monster or a misused guardian spirit? 3. Are past life memories real or genetic echoes of ancestral trauma? 4. What does it mean to protect the forest, preserve life, or judge it? 5. If the wolf lives inside you, will you silence it or set it free? A family is found brutally killed deep in Transylvania's forest. Villagers whisper that the werewolf, Varkalak, has returned. A brave journalist sets out to investigate the chilling signs. Is she chasing a man or a legendary beast? Will you dare follow her footsteps into the Carpathian shadows? A long night in the Carpathians. This story draws from Eastern European werewolf legends, particularly those from Romania, where folklore about werewolves has been widespread since the Middle Ages, often tied to superstitions about curses and divine punishment. Historically, mysterious attacks in the Carpathian region during the 18th to 19th centuries were attributed to werewolves, reflecting deep-rooted fear of the forests and human nature itself. The story is set in a remote village in Transylvania, Romania, in 1970, a time when communities still clung to ancient beliefs. The chilling mountain forest, unresolved mysteries, and lingering dread shaped the story. Transylvania, Romania, September 5, 1970. The Carpathian Mountains were swept with cold wind, pine trees howling like they were crying. A family of 3, a father, mother, and young child, were found dead in the forest near the village of Varkalak. Their bodies were torn apart, as if by a massive beast. Anna Popescu, a 26-year-old journalist from Bucharest with short hair and curious eyes, arrived in the village to investigate. Villagers whispered that the werewolf, a legend they believed had returned, was responsible. Aiyana, accustomed to urban skepticism, inspected the scene. The claw marks on the trees didn't resemble those of wolves or bears, but carried a terrifying precision. She felt the forest breathing, watching every step she took. Nikolai, 35, was a woodsman living in isolation on the edge of the village. Tall, with sinewy hands and dark eyes, he was the only one brave enough to enter the forest after the attack. Villagers whispered that Nikolai's ancestors had been cursed by a witch for betrayal, leaving his bloodline marked with the beast's brand. Aiyana met Nikolai in his wooden cabin, thick with the scent of pine resin and smoke. He spoke of the night of the attack. I heard a scream, not of a beast, not of a man. But when Aiyana asked about his ancestors, Nikolai fell silent, gripping the handle of his axe tightly. She left uneasy, as if he were hiding a secret deeper than the woods themselves. October 1970. 2 more attacks occurred. A shepherd was torn apart near a mountain pass, and a young girl, Aiyana, disappeared. Only her blood-soaked scarf was found. Villagers locked their doors, lit candles in the church, and prayed for protection from the Varkalak. Some carried silver knives, believing only silver could kill a werewolf. Aiyana stood in the cold church, listening to an old woman tell of a curse. A witch had cursed Nikolai's family after they destroyed her sacred shrine. Aiyana didn't believe it, but as she passed through the woods, she found a torn piece of clothing stained with blood near where Aiyana vanished. That night, she dreamed of glowing golden eyes staring at her from the darkness, jolting her awake. Aiyana discovered an old cave in the forest, one Nikolai had mentioned as a cursed place. Inside were carvings on the stone walls, figures turning from human to beast, and an ancient Romanian inscription, "Blood calls to blood." A pile of animal bones lay in a corner. Though some seemed suspiciously human, Aiyana confronted Nikolai and demanded an explanation. He admitted seeing something in the forest, but swore he hadn't killed anyone. When pressed further, Nikolai grew angry and drove her away. She left the cave, heart pounding, as if it held a truth she wasn't yet ready to face. One night, Aiyana followed Nikolai as he ventured deep into the woods carrying an axe. She trailed him, but thick fog made her lose sight. A terrible scream echoed, freezing her in place. When she found him again, Nikolai stood over a dead deer, blood all over his hands. "I told you not to interfere," he growled. Aiyana clutched her camera and snapped a photo of him. In the flash of light, she saw his eyes gleam for a split second, like an animal's. She ran back to the village, mind spinning. She began to wonder if she was hunting a man or something that didn't belong in this world. Another attack. A hunter named Mihai was found torn apart near the cave. The villagers gathered, demanding Nikolai's execution. Aiyana stood among the angry crowd, trying to protect him, but even she was no longer sure. She pressed Nikolai to tell the truth. In a broken voice, he confessed his grandfather had spoken of a curse that made men in their bloodline turn into beasts when enraged. "I've tried to fight it," Nikolai said, "but I feel it in my blood." Aiyana returned to the cave and found an old blade engraved with Romanian lettering. When she touched it, she felt a cold surge, as if the cave itself were alive. She began to suspect the curse wasn't mere folklore, but something far more horrifying. The villagers dragged Nikolai into the forest, tied him to a tree, and burned him alive. Aiyana, helpless, listened to his screams echo across the mountains. The attacks ceased, but the Carpathian forest remained chillingly silent. Aiyana left the village, carrying the ancient blade. She kept asking herself, was the beast real? Life continued in Transylvania, but villagers avoided the forest after dark. They claimed to sometimes hear distant screams or see ghostly shapes among the pine trees. Some said the blade Aiyana took had awakened something. The legend lived on, a warning that the mountain forest guard's secrets never meant to be disturbed. Was Nikolai truly transformed by a curse? Or was he merely a man turned monster by the fears of his community? Are the carvings in the cave remnants of an ancient truth, or simply superstitious imagination? After Nikolai was burned, the forest grew quiet. But what guarantees the darkness is truly gone? Are the howls echoing through the mountains just fear's memory, or a sign something still lurks? Did the blade Aiyana carried away hold nothing more than history, or a fragment of the Carpathian curse? And that was only the surface of the darkness. If what you heard gave you chills, brace yourself. The next stories will be even more mysterious, terrifying, and unforgettable, but we'd love to hear what you think. Truth or just legend? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share this video so you won't miss the spine-chilling journeys still to come. See you in the shadows.